What happens when a group of overconfident cadets decides to pull a prank on their new instructor? Well, when that instructor is a battle-hardened Navy SEAL, they're about to get a lesson they'll never forget. This is the story of why you never, ever threaten a SEAL. Our story begins at a prestigious military academy, where a new group of cadets, fresh-faced and full of themselves, were about to meet their new hand-to-hand combat instructor. Rumors were flying. Some said he was a legendary figure, a ghost from the special operations world. Others scoffed, thinking it was just another washed-up soldier. Among them was a cadet named Miller, the arrogant ringleader of his clique. He and his buddies thought they were the top dogs, and they decided to test the new instructor's mettle. The instructor's name was Lieutenant Commander Eva Rostova. She wasn't the towering man they had expected. Instead, she was a woman of average height, with a calm demeanor and eyes that seemed to see right through you. Her record was classified, but the whispers said she had seen more combat than entire battalions. This only fueled Miller's arrogance. A woman? He thought, this will be easy. Their plan was simple and incredibly foolish. They would stage a mock ambush during the first training session. Miller had managed to get his hands on a training pistol, one that fired harmless blanks but looked and felt real. As Rostova entered the training hangar, a vast echoing space, they would corner her, put the gun to her head, and show her who's really in charge. They saw it as a harmless prank, a way to establish their dominance early on. The next day, the stage was set. The hangar was dimly lit, filled with training mats and obstacle courses. The other cadets were stretching, oblivious to the drama about to unfold. Rostova walked in, her footsteps silent on the concrete floor. She carried a simple duffel bag, which she placed quietly in a corner. As she turned to address the class, Miller and his two friends emerged from the shadows. "All right, class, today we're going to start with the basics of situational awareness," she began, her voice even and steady. Before she could finish her sentence, Miller was behind her. The cold metal of the training pistol pressed against her temple. His friends flanked her, blocking any escape. A few cadets gasped, others froze, unsure if this was part of the training. "Looks like your situation just got a little complicated." "Ma'am," Miller sneered, his voice dripping with false confidence. He expected her to flinch, to show fear, to maybe even cry out. He expected a reaction. He just didn't expect the one he got. Rostova didn't move a muscle. She didn't gasp. She didn't even blink. The only thing that changed was a subtle shift in her posture, a coiling of energy so minute only a trained eye would notice. A slow, cold smile touched her lips. "Is that so, cadet?" she asked, her voice dropping to a dangerously low purr. What happened next was a blur of motion, a symphony of controlled violence that lasted less than 3 seconds. With lightning speed, Rostova's left hand shot up, grabbing Miller's wrist and the gun. She twisted, using his own momentum against him, breaking his grip with an audible crack of his knuckles. Simultaneously, her body pivoted. Her right elbow slammed into the ribs of the cadet on her right, who folded with a grunt, the air knocked out of his lungs. She didn't stop there. Still holding Miller's wrist, she spun him around, using him as a shield as she disarmed him. The training pistol clattered to the floor. The third cadet, seeing his friends neutralized, hesitated for a split second. That was all the time Rostova needed. She kicked Miller's legs out from under him, sending him crashing to the mat, and in the same fluid motion, she lunged forward. A swift, precise strike to the third cadet's solar plexus had him gasping for air on his knees. Silence. The entire hangar was dead quiet. The only sound was the pain groaning of Miller and his friends. Rostova stood in the center of the carnage, not even breathing heavily. She calmly bent down, picked up the training pistol, and checked the chamber. She looked at Miller, who was now staring up at her with a mixture of terror and disbelief. She crouched down, her face just inches from his. The calm, smiling instructor was gone. In her place was the Navy SEAL. Her eyes were like chips of ice. "Lesson 1, cadet," she said, her voice a low, menacing whisper. "Never assume. You assumed I was weak. You assumed I was unaware. You assumed this was a game." She tapped the side of his head with the barrel of the pistol he had just held to hers. "Lesson 2. When you point a weapon at someone, you had better be prepared to use it. Because you have just given them permission to do whatever is necessary to take you down. You gave me that permission. She stood up, her gaze sweeping over the rest of the stunned cadets, who were frozen in place like statues. You want to test me? You want to see what I'm made of? Fine. Class is in session. For the next hour, she put them through the most grueling physical and mental workout of their lives. She pushed them to their absolute limits and then pushed them further. There were no more sneers, no more arrogance. There was only sweat, exhaustion, and a newfound, profound respect. Miller and his friends were brought before the Academy's disciplinary board. They were nearly expelled, but Rostova intervened. She told the board that the most valuable lessons are often the hardest learned. She requested that they remain in her class under her direct supervision. She said, "I'm not done with them yet." For the rest of the semester, Miller and his friends were her special project. She worked them harder than anyone else. She broke down their arrogance, their entitlement, and rebuilt them from the ground up. She taught them humility, discipline, and the true meaning of strength. It wasn't about being the toughest guy in the room. It was about control, awareness, and respecting the chain of command. By the end of the course, Miller was a changed man. He was the top cadet in his class, not because of his ego, but because of his hard work and discipline. On the last day, he approached Rostova, his posture now straight and respectful. "Ma'am," he said, his voice clear, "I wanted to thank you. You taught me a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life." Rostova simply nodded. "Good," she said. "Now, drop and give me 50. The real training starts now." A genuine smile finally broke through her stern exterior. The cadets had put a gun to her head and, in doing so, had learned the most important lesson of their careers. You do become a Navy SEAL by accident, and you never, ever threaten one. That story is a powerful reminder that true strength isn't about bravado or intimidation. It's about quiet competence, unbreakable discipline, and the wisdom to know when to act. The cadets thought they were playing a game, but they were given a masterclass in reality. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time.